Ice Age, The Adventures of Buck Wild is the sixth Ice Age franchise film and the only one to not release in theaters. The film stars Simon Pegg, who voices Buck Wild. This film is about the possums, played by Crash and Eddie, who just want to live on their own now. They're done being in the herd. They want to explore, and they go back into the lost world where Buck Wild is in the middle of trying to save the lost world. So he teams up with Z, his old superhero partner, and the possums to save the lost world. The film is an hour, 22 minutes, and is PG, and is streaming exclusively on Disney Plus. Welcome back to a brand new movie review here on Max Talks. We're going to talk about Ice Age, Adventures of Buck Wild. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and box office breakdown shows. So please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. Also, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this film and also this franchise as a whole. The first one came out in 2002. So a 20-year franchise. Let me know your ranking of the Ice Age films if you care. Tell me if you even know this movie was coming out and your thoughts on non-spoiler in the comment section down below. And please like the video, the thumbs up button. So I knew nothing about this film heading in. Now, this is a franchise that I have watched the first one a lot as a kid. Again, the first one came out, I was born in 2002. So this franchise has been around my entire life. 5 theatrically released films with Ice Age, Ice Age, The Meltdown, Continental Drift, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, Collision Course. This is a franchise that I just have never fallen in love with. I really have fun with the first one, the nice, solid animated film. I never looked at it as a Pixar type or DreamWorks elevated film, but it was a film that I did watch a lot as a kid. I have not seen it in a while, but I do remember having a lot of nostalgia for it when I recently watched it maybe a couple years ago. But really, I can't remember really watching the sequels that often. If maybe I watched the sequels one time, I don't think I've seen all of them, but again, one time, maybe 2 times. Can't really remember other than the first film. So I was not really expecting much. The fact that it went right to Disney Plus, the fact that the movie is only an hour 22 with credits is a really short runtime, which also got me nervous. So let's talk about the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. So and also before I actually get into it, is that also this is the first film in the Ice Age franchise to not be, of course, produced by its animated studio, Blue Sky. Blue Sky was the animated producing studio for the Ice Age franchise. That was their first film in 2002. But Blue Sky was sold to Disney and closed in 2019, with its last film being Spies in Disguise, which is a Tom Holland, Will Smith film. But that its 2 only franchise animated films were Ice Age and Rio. So not really a major franchise, but got sold to Disney a couple of years ago. So the fact that this is the first Disney completely owned film in this franchise also sends a lot. So let's talk about the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. Also to let you guys know, Simon Pegg, who voices Buck Wild, is the only returning voice cast member of the entire cast. Now, yes, Manny, Sid, Diego, they are all back in the movie, but they are voiced all by, and Ellie, they're all voiced by completely different actors. Even Crash and Eddie are voiced by completely different actors. So Simon Pegg's Buck Wild is the only original cast member of the first 5 films to come back to voice their character. That was a bit of a worrisome as well. So let's get into the film. So this, I think, this is one of the quickest movies that I'll probably see all year long. I can't remember the last time I saw a movie under an hour 25 with credits. I mean, this film without credits and without the 5, and also if you're new to the Ice Age franchise, I would probably say watch the Ice Age, at least Ice Age 1, to kind of gauge if you're going to like this franchise or not, because the first 5 minutes of the film is purely recap of the whole franchise, where Ellie's kind of drawing stuff on the wall, and it's the drawings of what happened in the first 5 films. So you don't need to be totally into the franchise, but I guess I would highly recommend you if you want to check it out. But if you don't count the 5 minutes, which is just recapping of what's happened last time on the Ice Age, and probably 7 minutes of credits, this film could easily be like an hour and 10 minutes straight with, that is in really, really short runtime. So this movie does fly by. I was not trudging my way along the film. It's an easy watch where you blink and you miss it and you're already in the third act. This film moves really fast, but also feels like it's also stretching out its runtime to the longest it can be based on this really minimal story. But we'll get to negatives in a sec. Simon Pegg is a voice actor that I just have always loved. One of my favorite actors, one of my favorite characters in the Mission Impossible franchise, but he has done a lot of voiceover work, including Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance on Netflix, which I thought was a really great stuff for him. Even doing Tintin, I think he's a really good voice actor. So he delivers as Buck Wild, who sadly is not the main character of the movie. So while it says Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild is very much a supporting character to Crash and Eddie, who are basically in the franchise, the dumb, cute, I guess, possums who are with Manny and the crew. The fact that when you watch the movie, I don't think Buck Wild even shows up until like the first 20, 25 minutes of the movie. So it takes you a while to get into him. I'm not the biggest. Buck Wild and Z are definitely two standouts in the film. Their chemistry together works really well. And those are two of the most fascinating characters in the entire film. Sadly, Buck Wild just can't be the main character of his own name-titled film. Crash and Eddie are the main characters. But when Buck Wild and Z are in the action or having conversations, the movie is actually a lot more interesting when they go into Buck Wild and Z's relationship, their backstory, and why they want to team up again to stop this villain of making him the king of the lost world and not letting mammals and dinosaurs live in peace. So I do think that when Z and Buck Wild actually get to talk, it's actually quite interesting. The two of them together should have been the only really characters in the film. If they want to do it truly, this film is really caught in between because it wants to be a complete spin-off film from the main couple of characters, but also needs to market this film as an Ice Age film. So it feels like very forced in that the original characters are in this film. As I said, Ray Romano, Dennis Leary, John Leguizamo, Queen Latifah, none of them are back for this movie. And you can feel it because the main characters feel so unnecessary that every time they cut back to them, you feel like you're just meaningless stuff is happening because the main story, if you were going to have Crash and Eddie be the main characters, the main story just should be these four characters behind me, but they wanted the Ice Age characters to be in there. So as you can tell, it's a quick movie with a fun main character, I guess one of the two fun side characters on your journey. But let's get into my negatives. This is just not a good movie. And this will definitely be this is one of the more forgettable animated films that I've seen in a really long time. And that's really because this is one of the most forgettable animated franchises of all time. This is a sixth animated film in a 20-year franchise where I can't remember anything that happens outside of the first film. And this is someone who grew up with these films, and I don't remember anything that happens in 2 through 5. And this film continues to add to the trend of another forgettable Ice Age film that I'll never see again. Even if I ever go back to an Ice Age film, I'll always go back only to the first film exclusively. This film is also, just like the rest of the franchise, very much made for kids. There's a lot of just fart jokes that just don't land at all in the movie. As I said, Crash and Eddie are just not very good lead characters. They can't carry an entire movie because their whole bit is that they're dumb and say the stuff that doesn't really fit anything. And that can be fun, I guess, as a side character, just popping in and out with some of those jokes. But when your main characters are supposed to be just being dumb the whole movie, you just can't get attached to Crash and Eddie because they're being dumb for the sake of a joke, but that's every single scene of the film. And it interrupts the Buck Wild and Z stuff that you're promoted to be the main characters of the film, but Crash and Eddie really take over Buck Wild, which is just a huge missed opportunity because especially when your only voice actor who's coming back is the title of the movie, is still not even the main character, is just a big disappointment. Also, some of this animation style, this has not really aged that well. Even in 2002, when the first film came out, there's some nostalgia that I have for it, but you can kind of tell how it was kind of before its time. And sadly, this film doesn't enhance that type of animation. That's all. Like, for example, Toy Story 1 still looks really good for today, but you can tell how much elevated Toy Story 4 looks 20 years later. This film 20 years later just looks like the same type of animation that was made in 2002, which was a big disappointment. You definitely want to see a lot beautiful, more animation. And really the biggest problem with the film is really the script. It's a really lukewarm, bland and boring script that does nothing for the movie. You feel no emotion. It's a villain that you've seen in a billion movies before, and you really don't care in this movie if the villain succeeds or not. And that's all I can say. It's a bland, forgettable animated film that does nothing for me in an hour 20. I mean, it feels like this movie could have been like 45 minutes. It'd been like a short film from a spin-off from an Ice Age movie, because they try to add so much to it. It feels like they're trying to elongate the runtime, but even it's still an hour 22, and they're trying to elongate it even more. I just felt like the movie could have been an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know how it even got to an hour 22. I said the old characters who are not even voiced by the original actors felt so forced in just to be in there for the promotion's sake of it. Like, this is an Ice Age film. They're completely useless in the movie. You can kind of tell that the main actors are not back in the movie, because I didn't tell before, so but I could feel it in the movie that these were not the original actors. So overall, I just don't have a lot of thoughts, because this just felt like a nothing movie. The action wasn't that good. The animation has just not held up, and sadly, they did not do anything to enhance the animation. And this is definitely one of the more bland and forgettable animation franchises, especially, as I said, being 20 years old and now adding its 6th film to the franchise. I wonder if they continue this franchise. This is a franchise that really no one has ever talked about, and I think that will stay the same. So I'm just going to give the Ice Adventures of Buck Wild a 1 out of 5 stars, a 24% for the Ice Age Adventure of Buck Wild. Just did not enjoy myself watching this movie. I wasn't completely bored, but I just felt nothing. And just the blandest story I maybe have seen in most forgettable animated films in a really long time. So that's my thoughts on this film. Please like the video, subscribe, ring the bell. More movie reviews are coming. Another Netflix movie review is coming out soon, as well as a box office breakdown show, Euphoria, all these things. I'll see you guys soon.